Hello, and welcome to the Author Roundup, a special segment of the Book Connection Show where we meet up and coming indie authors and talk to them about their recently released books. Hi, welcome to Author Roundup. I'm Jenny, and I'm your host for this episode. Our special guest serves as a professor with the Ohio State University, where he has taught on campus and through OSU Extension for 28 years. He specializes in leadership and capacity building to equip people in organizations. He and his family have been long-term volunteers in faith-based community service programs across the U.S. and internationally. Let's all welcome Dr. Brian Raison, the author of The Encouraging Mentor, Your Guide to 40 Conversations That Matter. Hi, Brian. How are you? I'm so glad to have the chance to talk to you.
Thanks so much, Jenny. I'm super excited to be here. I'm glad to see you, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit about this book.
I'm excited to start talking to you about your book. But before that, can you please tell us more about yourself, Brian?
Yeah, so I'm a professor at Ohio State, and I also work in this thing called Extension, which is the U.S. land grant system that started over 100 years ago. And so we do outreach from the university to try to serve all the people in Ohio, not just the ones who can have the opportunity or afford to go to college. So in my work, a lot of what I'm doing, like this semester, I'm teaching a graduate course, and part of that will include, well, it's actually on leadership. And so over the last, well, I could probably say all 28 years at Ohio State, I've been collecting these little tidbits of ideas and information and wisdom even. And slowly I started putting them together, and I kept getting more and more requests from my colleagues across the country, here in Ohio and across the country, as my graduate students went off and became professors at other universities. Hey, Brian, could I use that? And so finally, I compiled them all and put them together into this book. And so the encouraging mentor uh, really was born from 40 individual conversations, is what I've labeled them. I kind of rewrote them as conversations, but they were exercises or experiments that I did in my classrooms and with my clients across Ohio, as I've been doing my teaching on campus or through extension. A lot of leadership, a lot of strategic planning. Just yeah. And so anyway, so here it is, all finally put together.
So, mhm. 28 years in the making. I mean, the gathering of the information that you place in the book. So that's something. So you already started to talk about your book. I understand this is connected to your first book because this is your second book, right?
Well, so they're companion. Thank you. So actually, this is the first book, but what I did was I then extracted the 40 conversations and
Mhm.
said, could we make a journal so that somebody could actually fill in the blanks and write as they're having the conversation with their mentor? Might they follow along, if you will, and have space to write? Because we know from research that if you take the time to write, not type, typing's okay, but physically writing with a pen or a pencil on paper cements synapses in your brain, and it cements not ideas and concepts. And so it's a really powerful thing. So if you are being mentored by someone who's using these 40 conversations, you can follow along and actually write down your thoughts and then go back and use them as a reflection tool later, which is, again, really powerful. That reflection and remembering is a
Mhm.
great way to cement lessons and to make them stick. They also work as an independent study. So
Mhm.
you could just take the 40 conversations journal and go through it by yourself. I like to encourage people to use a mentor, to have somebody to talk to. It can be very informal. You don't have to sign up for a program. And in fact, that's the premise of my entire construct. I kind of developed this into a new theoretical construct of non-formal mentoring. I'm getting way ahead of myself, but since I'm, let me just really quickly in layman's terms, Many people have been involved in formal mentoring programs, and a lot of
Mhm.
those are really good. But sometimes they feel like a checkbox. I've got to schedule another meeting. It has to be 90 minutes long. And sometimes the pairing doesn't work because it's not organic. You're paired with somebody that maybe you don't have that much in common, or you just don't find things to talk about. So this whole construct is to say, let's do what non-formal education theory says, which is to meet adults where they are, to supply information that they need
Mhm.
versus a particular program
Mhm.
or conversation or mentoring topics that somebody else thought up. And so you can literally take these conversations and take them out in any order you want. The main thing with a non-formal approach is that you meet the mentee where they are. So
Mhm.
it's a more organic nature, and you don't have to formally check boxes and things like that. And so I've got a number. Well, you're going to ask me this question later. Universities across the country who are using this approach. They've asked me about it. I've outlined ways to overlay a non-formal construct onto their formal mentoring program. But assuredly, let me say one thing. I rewrote all of this for a non-academic audience. So this is
Oh,
a readable book. You will not find theory and constructs in there. I mean, it's in there, but it's very, very barely mentioned. This is because I've had many friends and colleagues say this is so readable because it's not an academic book whatsoever. Yeah.
okay. You said it's not an academic book about mentoring, right? So, who is the intended reader of this book? Like, who do you want to
Yeah.
reach out to?
Well, so let me just read you a quick, I've got a little passage here. This is just a couple of sentences. Page 5. How can you tell if someone needs encouragement? The easy answer, simply check for a pulse. Whether successful or struggling, we all need encouragement, but we also need to be challenged. These two seemingly disparate approaches can work together to help people flourish, develop their natural gifts and talents, and subsequently make their lives and our world a better place. So my premise is that everyone needs encouragement. If
Mm-hmm.
you're breathing, you need encouragement, but you also need to be challenged. And that's where mentoring has the powerful effect of those two things together. If you simply challenge people, or if you simply encourage people, it's kind of giving platitudes, and it's not very meaningful. If you just yay, yay,
Right.
yay, that's you're
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. People need that challenge. But if you challenge people without encouraging them, then you're kind of maybe being mean. And so together, when we challenge and encourage, you can powerfully help someone advance in their career. So this book is for anyone, a manager, a teacher, a
Mm-hmm.
coach, a friend that cares. You, me, anyone can be a mentor, and we all should be mentors to someone or some people in our lives. It is a powerful thing to recognize potential in somebody before they recognize it in themselves. And this guide, this is a how-to book, will help you walk through that process. It will give you the tools so you don't have to think up, oh, what could I say to somebody? Well, turn to conversation, not on a conversation start there. Turn to conversation number 20, providing clarity. The question here, can honing your ability to provide clarity propel your career advancement? And then I've got basically 2 pages, really simple. Look, you read that as the mentor, and then you go have that conversation with somebody. And it can absolutely help them understand why having clarity at work, at home, et cetera,
Mm-hmm.
can help them with their career, with their personal lives, et cetera. And the 40 different topics, if you take a look at them,
Mm-hmm.
are pretty relevant for things that I have seen over my career. And before that, 10 years in private industry before coming to the academy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in thinking about our values, our personal mission, how do we leverage gratitude? How do we build curiosity? What's your biggest fear? I mean, that is an amazing conversation. I'll have it with my undergrad students in October. I always do it around Halloween just for fun. But it's a poignant conversation that helps them think about their future and that they're not alone, that they've got each other to lean on. They've got community. And so it's a really powerful lesson. Financial health, living and giving, what's in your circle of control? Do you know about emotional intelligence? How do you shift perspective? How do you lead with humility? So all these topics are just really real life stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I like the part when you said that anyone can be a mentor. I mean, with the help of your book, like, because the general assumption is that to be a mentor, you have to be an expert in something, or you have to know a lot about this thing in order for you to mentor someone. But I guess that's not what the book is saying.
Absolutely not. And it's not just me saying it, it's the research, the literature. Yeah, what you need one thing, actually, I guess two things to be a good, effective mentor. You need a little bit of time, not very much, just a little bit of time, and you
Mhm.
need to care. That's it. You do not have to have any expertise or subject matter knowledge. You don't have to be older than the person you're mentoring
Mm.
because I have, and I specifically have sought some mentors who are younger than me
Mhm.
because they know things that I don't know and they can help me clue in to some of the things that my 60 plus year old brain doesn't see anymore. And so being a mentor literally is simply a matter of giving a little bit of your time and caring. And your time now you don't even have to give much time because you can just read 2 pages and then have a great, meaningful conversation with somebody because I've put it all together.
Yeah. So you will be guided by the 40 conversations in the book. Okay. So,
Absolutely. And they're pretty intuitive. And again, you can take them in any order you want.
mhm.
But the beautiful thing is you can meet your mentee or the person that you're wanting to coach or mentor where they are and in their need. That makes the lesson much more powerful because we know from adult motivation theory that we're much more tuned in when there is a reason for us to do that, when there's a need that's
Mhm.
in our life, whatever that might be, work, professional, whichever. And so topically, say career advancement, there is a section on here in career advancement. So maybe you've got a young person that you know who is out of college now, or maybe they're early in their career and they're feeling a little stuck. And there are
Mhm.
some conversations in here that you could skip right to and encourage them with just really some pretty brief conversations. The process is asking them the question because a mentor. Oh, so Jenny, here's one of the things that some people miss. They think a mentor is supposed to tell you things and give you
Right.
this wisdom.
Mhm.
Good mentor will ask good questions and help you to discover it. They might
Mhm.
point to some resources so that you can learn or figure out where to learn more. But I don't have to have the answer to help to mentor somebody or to help them in their career. They could be a rocket scientist, which I don't know anything about,
Mhm.
but I can absolutely mentor them in their career in helping them think about their curiosity and expanding their curiosity and helping them think about expanding their diversity of inputs in their life, whatever that may be. And all those things are laid out in simple 2 or 3 page conversations. Yeah.
Okay. So I understand you've been a professor for a very long time now, but and along the way you got to talk to a lot of people and all that. What inspired the idea for this book exactly?
So I've mentioned this a little bit, I guess, or hit on it a little bit, but so my research
my teaching, and really, I describe myself as an unlikely professor sometimes because I'm all about practice.
Mm.
My graduate students in particular really, I just this semester again was waitlisted, and I opened it up to let 5 more students in because I love my students. They're just, but but I think the kids, I mean, these are adults. They're, graduate students. I call them kids. They're my kids' ages. But I think they like taking my classes because I take the theory and put it into practice. And so that's the thing that I think is really engaging to people, because you can take these theoretical constructs and research studies and everything else, and that's all fine, and I love that. I'm a social scientist, um, but when you put it into real life practice and you can use that to make your life better, your workplace, the world, that's really powerful. And so that's where the ideas came from, kind of rooted in research and writing and wisdom, and some of it not a lot of it not new. A lot of it is ancient wisdom. If you have faith traditions, maybe you've read some 2 or 3 or 4 thousand year old literature that still has some good stuff in it today from various faith traditions. And so a lot of that, if you look through the 80s, 90s, when I was early in my career, a lot of that stuff comes out of ancient faith-based writing. And
Mm.
so that's in there as well. But I go ahead and I do cite, Peter Drucker or Stephen Covey or some of the
Mhm.
newer writers, most certainly Carol Dweck and others. But also some of it's from early writing and faith-based literature that is just meaningful stuff to help us live our lives better.
Okay, so let's go into your journey as an author. How long did it take you to complete the book? And
So,
perhaps share with us any anecdotes you may have about your writing experience.
yeah, thank you, Jenny. So, again, I've been putting these together. I had actually started writing them up as one-page exercises like 15 or 20 years ago,
Mhm.
and adapting them for different audiences. Uh, and I realized that whether I've got a younger audience or an adult audience, it all works. The questions, engaging people in these kind of life questions, matters to any age. So 7 or 8 years ago, I really started doing that in earnest. And I came up with about 20 or 25 that I had formally written up as one page. Here's a handout. And then I've had people all over the country are teaching this. They use those handouts at other universities because I've been around for a long time. So I know a lot of people in national associations and things, academic groups. And so they use them in their work, and they use them with individuals or with groups or in teaching, because a lot of these questions can be used as you start a class as an introductory question to your class, and I do that all the time. So it's been a process of time in actual writing to actually make this happen. It was about 6 months of concentrated rewriting so that it could be in everyday language, not academic language. And I wanted to make sure that it was very accessible. And so that was the process. The I have a journal article coming out that actually gives the theory and the construct of non-formal mentoring. And it's all grounded, I might have mentioned, in non-formal learning theory and not adult learning theory, Malcolm Knowles, Bandera. I mean, I start citing, you don't want me to do that. But none of that's in there. This is a very accessible book, and it finally came there. A lot of nights and weekends trying to make it fit, make it flow, but to have a product that anyone could use with no training and no preparation. You just pick it up read 2 pages and kind of get the background and the
Mhm.
questions, and then have a conversation with somebody.
I see. Because you mentioned that 40 conversations will be featured in the book, right? So I'm just wondering how you sorted through all of the conversations you've had. I'm sure every day is like an experience for you when you talk to different people. So the whole thing of deciding whether you're going to use that or you're going to use something else to expound on this topic, perhaps. Tell us more about that process.
That's maybe the toughest part was figuring that out. So the litmus test or the curation was to use the ones that are most impactful, to use the ones that most resonate with people that in my personal experience. And so I've got one called the bucket list. It's not a new question. I didn't think this up, but to
Mhm.
ask somebody, do you have a bucket list? And I was at the Ohio Stadium. So Ohio State, we've got this big horseshoe stadium. A lot of people know it. And the band is everybody or a lot of people like the Ohio State band. Well, they had invited me to come in and talk with their leadership. Actually, I guess the band. Anyway, so in the walls of the stadium is this giant band room. You would never know it was in there, but it's in the walls of the stadium. So I get in there. It's a rainy Monday night, 7 o'clock. I'm kind of tired, not really wanting to be there. I'm like, why did they have this meeting at 7 o'clock on Monday night? It's raining. It was January, so it was like cold rain.
Mm.
I went up, I went in. There's about 80 or so students in there, and they introduced me, and I said, "Do you have a bucket list?" They're kind of looking at me like, okay, who is this guy? Why is he here? He's supposed to help us personally and professionally. It's a professional seminar, and he's
Mhm.
asking about a bucket list. What? And I said, do you have a bucket list? Do you have a couple of things that you might want to do, in life? And so then they warmed up. Oh, I want to see the Northern Lights, go skydive, travel, normal kind of things. I said, okay, cool. I said, thank you for sharing. Now, quick follow-up question. Do you realize that by having a bucket list, you're thinking about dying? What? What? Wait a minute. Who invited this guy? I said, wait, maybe it's not that bad. His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu wrote a book called The Book of Joy about probably 10 years ago. I think it's 2016. I don't remember. Anyway, and in that book, they said, if we think about our own mortality, it helps us today have better connections, conversations, get more done. We're able to say no to those things that are less important because we're saying yes to the things that are more important. Stephen Covey talks about this. Rick Warren talks about this. What's your purpose? If you can lean into that, you can have greater impact. And so the bucket list, even though we were kind of doing the fun things on the bucket list, then I challenged them, well, what about your professional bucket list, your personal or professional life of what you want to get done and what's important? How do you lean into that? And so then, of course, we had a great conversation. And so that's just one example of back to your question. I'm sorry. Of choosing the 40 conversations is the ones that really work. And that's what I've included.
That's an interesting way to get someone to think and reflect. So you got me thinking right there when you asked that. I was like, okay. Okay, so
Good.
that's the challenging part, or then I wouldn't say that it's difficult, but challenging as to how to determine what would go into the book or not, right? But let's talk about the enjoyable part of writing the book. Tell us more about that.
Um, the enjoyable part only comes when you pause and reflect and think about the potential that it could have. Writing is work and it's a chore, and editing is work, and working with your editors is work, and having receiving their feedback graciously and not feeling like they're poking at you when they say, well, why did maybe you need to change that word
Right.
or fix. And so that's work. But the enjoyable part is thinking about and realizing that people are going to take conversation number 8 and they're going to really have it with somebody in real life. And that's going to help that person improve their life. It's going to help
Mhm.
them get over a hump. Maybe they're feeling stuck about something. I think conversation number 8 is curiosity, actually, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, building curiosity. And in fact, I've shared this with a lot of leaders. You have somebody who's feeling stuck, and maybe they're just career, personally, professionally, whatever it may be. One thing that you might do to help them is just ask them kind of casually, don't be in mentor mode, but casually just ask them, what are you curious about? What have you been curious about lately? Because curiosity, if you read the business literature, curiosity is the new currency, right? So we know that as we expand our curiosity, we can learn more things. We can find solutions to problems that aren't necessarily clear. And so it can be really good to think about our curiosity and to encourage it a little bit. So asking a question like that to somebody who's feeling a little stuck or they're down or they're can be really powerful. So in the
Mhm.
writing process, if I would stop and imagine that when I would get really tired, this is taking the time to make sure that I get this paragraph right. It's going to really help somebody. And that is energizing.
Mhm. So that served as your motivation to just finish the book.
Oh, absolutely.
Get done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm. I'd just like to connect a little bit to what you said about how you would connect to, I mean, a mentor would connect to a mentee. You said that the book provides questions that can start the thinking process for the mentee. But how would you get the mentee to open up?
Well, and so that's a great question, Jenny. So the first conversation is kind of getting to know each other. And so
Mm,
I've got some opening questions, some introductory questions and prompts that will absolutely help you do that.
mhm,
They are so powerful and they work so well. I use anytime I'm invited to facilitate a strategic planning process. Just last week, well, over the last several years, actually, I've worked with several departments over in the College of Engineering and the College of Medicine, all at Ohio State, who have said, can you help the department chair? Can you help us create a strategic plan? And
mhm,
I'll say, sure, I can facilitate that process because I teach a graduate course on strategic planning.
mhm.
um, but more so, may I ask about your organizational culture? How is your department aligned? How are folks working together? And so, what I do when I go over to begin the conversations to develop a plan is I start with engagement and I
Mm,
use questions, literally the exact same questions that are in this
mhm.
to talk with the faculty, some of whom don't want to be there because the chair said,
Right.
you're going to come to this meeting.
Mhm.
Um, but when I ask them an engaging question, it changes everything and it starts their brain neurotransmitters firing at a different level. And
Mhm.
and I write about this connection before content. You make a connection before you move into content. It's really, really powerful. I don't know if there's any group that I've spoken with in the last 6 or 8 years that I haven't first made a connection, asked a question, or done something to make the connection before jumping into the material.
Okay, so that the questions that you have in the book will somehow get the mentee to share, to start sharing, open up, and all that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The mentoring launch conversation one is like one of the questions that I have to suggest is what's a favorite memory from a child from your childhood? What do
Mhm.
you hope the future holds for you? What's your favorite food and why? That sounds like such a throwaway question. What's your favorite food and why? If you can connect or get somebody to think about their favorite food, not just what it is, because who cares what it is? It's
Mhm.
pizza, it's cornbread.
But if they will tell you the why, I have had deep conversations with people who suddenly go back to their grandmother's kitchen.
Mhm.
And what, your grandmother was from West Virginia too? Well, so was my mom. And then you make this connection, and all of a sudden you've got a totally different relationship. And it's powerful. And it works with a group as well. You can do it with a group because it's the humanness making the connection before we jump into whatever we're trying to do or learn or achieve. It works with teams, it works with planning, it works with mentoring. Powerful stuff.
Mhm. Very interesting. So your book has been out for a few months now, right? And I'm
Yeah.
sure that you've been receiving a lot of feedback about it, a lot of reviews. Can you share to us the most memorable review, perhaps, or something that really had a great impact on you? Tell us more about that review or feedback that you received.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. So it's kind of crazy. It's exciting. So I've got friends at a university up north and out west that are going to use this book for the guide for their leadership programs. They've got a leadership certificate. It's a one-year
Mm-hmm.
program, and they're going to use this book as the basis for it. Actually, they're overlaying because they've had this program for years. And when my colleague there saw it, he was like, "This fits in our program. We're going to use this. We're adopting this." I've got colleagues at another university in a state close by that I think they're buying 500 or 600 copies of it to give to their faculty and staff because they understand that personal and professional development will lead to better employee retention. It will lead to more alignment in the workplace. It will lead to mission attainment because we start to talk together more. And they're going to do some programming with it, not just buy the book and say, "Here, go read this," but some engaging programming with it. I've had one of the most maybe impactful was a retire or a fellow that came up and said, "Brian, I want to thank you for the personal mission exercise." And I said, "Cool, cool. I hope it's helpful in your work." And he said, "No, you don't understand. I'm retiring next month."
Mm-hmm.
Thinking, well, why do you need a personal mission? Why are you doing this exercise if you're going to retire? He said, "Work is what I have done for 40 years." He said, "I've been scared to death, not knowing what I was going to do when I retired." He said,
Mm-hmm.
"Working through those questions gave gave me I realized the purpose that I have still even as I retire." He
Mm-hmm.
said, "I am so excited." And I was like, "Oh my goodness." Wow. I mean, when somebody, you don't get many of those. So that was pretty neat. Office of Student Life, they bought at my institute, Ohio State, bought copies of the self-study to for their student leaders. So the students at Ohio State who lead the student organizations, undergrad student organizations, and I've done training with them. So there's a lot. I mean, and there's a whole lot more, but it's exciting to see that and to know that. And again, I do not take credit for this. These are ideas that I have gotten from so many people, and certainly credited or cited where appropriate. I just put them together.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That must have felt amazing for you when you get the different reactions from different people and they tell you how much the book has affected them or influenced them or changed their lives.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's a blessing and a surprise too that to hear that. I feel very blessed.
Mhm. So, as an author this time, what advice can you give to someone who is just starting to write or in the process of writing his or her first book?
Cool. Your first book, give yourself some grace. It will take twice as long as you think. Don't expect a bestseller. Look at the statistics and know what most books titles sell and know how many are published each year. It's a crazy a lot of books are put out there. But if you've got a good message
Mhm.
and
and it can help people, then by all means, give it a shot because there's opportunity to help people. I mean, to inspire people to make a difference, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, right? Like, what's your purpose for getting this book out? If you meet
Yeah,
that purpose, then you're already won.
yeah,
Mhm.
good stuff.
So now that the books are out, and I know you're going to start promoting them again and all that, what are your professional and personal goals for your book this year?
So I don't have sales goals because it's just not that wasn't my purpose for writing it. My purpose for writing it was that one of these conversations could help one person have a
Mhm.
moment or solve a problem or find the purpose, their purpose in life. I love the word potential because it's just such an amazing thing. And so if you learn to be a better mentor with this little how-to, approach,
Mhm.
you can help someone recognize potential that they don't see in themselves. And so my goal is that some people will use these conversations to encourage someone else, some young person like me 50 years ago from rural Appalachian Ohio, low resource community and pretty humble beginnings, but people encouraged me. And that's why I said I feel like an unlikely professor. It's nothing I would have ever dreamed of. But because of mentoring, encouragement, it absolutely changed my life. And I hope that can happen for others.
Mhm. I'm sure it will. So, what is your final message to our viewers and to our listeners as well?
Just be a mentor. Don't take a class. Don't try to do a bunch of training. Just get an easy guide. You don't have to buy this, and you can download excerpts of it because I've been posting a lot of excerpts from it for free, just so that people can use it and try it. Try out having a conversation with somebody. You don't need to go up and say, "I would like to mentor you," but you can ask somebody a question, and it can there's amazing power in a single question if it's a good question. And I've got 40 of them that you can try, and I hope that you try it.
Mhm. Please invite them as well to visit your website and connect to you through your socials.
Yeah, so my website is encouragingmentor.com, just encouragingmentor, one word.com.
Mhm.
Super easy to remember, super easy to find. I've got some videos I'm posting. I've got 5 more that I'm getting ready to film next time I'm on campus, and it's summer right now. I've got some free downloads. I've got some new conversations because I keep getting ideas. They just, come out of the sky, and a couple of them are really interesting. Then the conversation 41 is going to be, are you any good at time management? Well, what if instead of trying to manage your time, you decided to try to manage your energy? So anyway,
Mm.
that will be at Encouraging Mentor with a video and a quick download for free. So everything on there's for free. So take a look, jump on, and contact me there. I'd love to hear from people.
Mhm. So I just have to ask this because you talk about Conversation 41. So are we expecting another book can we expect another book from you perhaps? Like maybe you have a few more conversations you would like to add to Encouraging Mentor?
I've got like 7 or 8 already.
Okay.
But
I think
I
we're
do
gonna
not have plans right now. Basically, I'm going to post them for free on
Mhm.
encouragingmentor.com. But who knows? I may revise this and add those additional conversations. But I keep having conversations with people, and I discover some really cool things. I'm an avid reader, so I'm always learning from the books I'm reading. And
Mhm.
Heather Holleman, I just read her book on 6 conversations, I think, and she had an amazing idea on there about volition or human volition. I'm thinking, oh, that would be a great conversation question. I got to call her and say, hey, Heather, let's talk.
We're looking forward to that.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jenny. Thank you.
And while waiting for the second, the new book, perhaps we can always go to your website since you
Yes,
said that you'll be posting it there.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So thank you so much, Brian, for the very inspiring, thought-provoking conversation we had today. So to everyone watching and listening, make sure that you check out Dr. Brian Raison's books, The Encouraging Mentor, Your Guide to 40 Conversations That Matter. And the supplement to that would be 40 Conversations, a guided journal for personal and professional growth. You can get both from Westbow Press online
Yes.
bookstore as well as Amazon and
Yes.
barnesandnoble.com. And it's available in printed format and, of course, digital format to those who would prefer an ebook. Okay, so thank you to all our viewers and listeners. See you again on the next episode of the Author Roundup.